Hello, Janksters, and welcome to another edition of the MagicJank podcast, the show where members of Team MagicJank get together and we talk about whatever's happening in Magic the Gathering. Okay, now there is a ton of new product, spoilers, releases, all kinds of info, but we're not going to talk about that today because in the midst of all of that whirlwind, we also had a new set just drop recently, and as a result, there are a lot of drafts and seals happening right now, and so of course, it is the Aetherdrift Limited episode, and so with that, I'm joined by none other than HeadologyMagic. How are we doing?
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for being here. So Aetherdrift, the card, the death race. Vroom, vroom.
Aetherdrift.
Yes,
the cars.
we're here.
The things.
So I have done about 5 drafts, and so I have thoughts and impressions, but nowhere near as many as folks who've really jumped into it. Also, fun fact, I drafted Hazaret in most of those. It just kept coming around. I'm like, I'm not gonna pass it. Like, I'm not gonna not take it. Like, but anyway. So yeah.
Oh, so, it was passed to you. It wasn't opened. Okay.
The one time it was. The one time it was a pick 2 situation where I was like, really, really, okay. First time it was pack 1, pick
There
1.
could have been the Simic God in the other side.
Yeah, we've reached a point where seeing a mythic in the pack does not necessarily mean that a mythic or rare wasn't taken already, which is kind of wild. But yeah.
So tell me your thoughts. What were your impressions of those 5 drafts?
So yeah, the handful of drafts that I did, I had fun. I enjoyed them. I don't believe I got any trophies, but at the end of the day, it felt slower than recent sets, which is a little paradoxical for a racing set where the main mechanic is literally called speed. But the impression that I got was it definitely rewarded like clever attacking and blocking. And I thought the speed mechanic requiring damage or life loss to be dealt on your turn encourages attacking in interesting ways. And so I kind of liked that. The tension that gave. I enjoy mechanics like that, or like, you know, Boast from Kaldheim, where like you might want to attack in a position where, you know, the actual combat damage is not necessarily in your favor, so that you get some other benefit. And speed kind of reminded me of that and gave me sometimes where like I attacked knowing that one of my creatures that I really would rather keep around was going to die just so I would get that point of damage and achieve max speed, you know, and that was knowing what cards were coming later, that was worth it. And I don't know, I enjoyed that tension and it created some interesting dynamics. And all in all, I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting though that like all of the removal hits either creatures or vehicles. And so one of the main benefits of having vehicles, like in the fact that they don't die to creature removal, just wasn't really relevant. So there was a situation where a lot of the times, like, oh, I have all these like pseudo creatures, but they're just sort of not creatures a lot of the time. Like, okay. And like the balance of creatures to vehicles, that was a tricky thing to balance. And I was never confident I got that right. And I could imagine balancing that and being, you know, skilled in this environment, that's not that big of an issue, and it could be an interesting challenge to try to overcome, but I know I didn't figure it out. And or maybe it's a huge pain in the butt. I don't know. How about you? What are your thoughts? So I kind of liked it.
There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack there that was actually really interesting. Those are good thoughts.
Yeah. If you're looking for an alternative marketplace online for Magic the Gathering singles and sealed products, I have great news for you. MagicJank.com is an online marketplace for people who love all Magic the Gathering has to offer, even the jankier bits. Join the MagicJank marketplace with your own storefront. Whether you're a small business or a hobbyist with more bulk lying around than you'd like, MagicJank.com can help your products reach new customers who love the game as much as you do. Now let's get back to the episode.
So there are some pieces of removal that still only do target creatures, so the vehicles would have to be crewed in order for them to work.
Okay.
Some removal, some tempo, some things like that. So that you'd have to play that on your turn when, their turn when they attack with the vehicle, etc. But you're right. Much of it does hit vehicles, which does make the expensive vehicles more difficult to figure out whether you want to play, because if they can be removed for 2 mana and you played a 6-drop, that can be pretty rough.
Yeah.
A huge swing at that point. If you invested 6 mana for something that didn't get value yet, but will get value in the future, and they just remove it for 2.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of stuff. There's a white 2 mana, 1 and a white that can destroy target artifact, which is vehicle or artifact, obviously, which can also get rid of the artifact creatures that you play. So you have to be very careful about that. And there's a red 2 mana that can also destroy artifacts.
Yep.
And so there's just a lot you have to be worried about. There's a 4 mana that can destroy vehicles and do 6 damage to something, or do 6 damage to something. So at common. So there's just a lot going on as far as, you know, managing your investment in artifacts / vehicles versus normal creatures. And so one of the reasons that is important is that if you invest in artifacts, you run the risk of having that huge sort of tempo / resource swing of you investing quite a bit and them investing quite little to kill it. And so that is in part to probably blame / explain why green right now is so damn popular and winning. Is that green doesn't necessarily use that many artifacts.
Sure.
It has just really powerful 4/4 trample reach cards for 4 that just, you know, can get bigger and, you know, Hazard of the Dunes.
Oh yeah.
Because that needed to be printed.
Clearly.
But
hey, to be fair, it does have upside beyond just the stats and being super
just make bigger.
And being downright splashable with only a single green pip. Like, what's going on here?
Trample and reach too, so it doesn't suffer from the normal green thing of, okay, well, you know, I'm just going to get past your big creatures by getting in the air, because Hazard of the Dunes and the Mammoth, sorry, not the Mammoth, the Cycler, the 6-drop, it's a Honey Mammoth. I think of it as Honey Mammoth because it gains 4 life, but it's a dinosaur actually. As I learned when I played the rare that gives all dinosaurs +1/+1. But yeah, Migrating Ketrodon is a dinosaur, 6/6 reach. So you're still not getting around that either. So green actually protects itself from the things that it's usually vulnerable to because it has a ton of reach at common. And they're big creatures. And so they stop, like the 4/4 blanks a lot of early aggression. And then can get in for, you know, trample against the smaller go wide decks, etc. So, you know, it's kind of a thing if you're in aggro. So that's why Boros is one of the worst. Is because you have this Hazard of the Dunes that even if they curve out 1, 2, 3, that 4/4 usually blanks their next play because they just can't attack in for enough damage to make sacrificing a creature to the hazard worth it. And that's why for Boros the combat tricks are quite important, but Boros is still one of the least winning decks. So green itself doesn't have as much of the reliance on artifacts, which means that a lot of its creatures require the full removal package. They can't Broken Wings your creature. They can't use any of the like destroy target artifact on your creature. They can't use this destroy target vehicle, although there are some good green vehicles. So green doesn't have to rely on those, and therefore it can just put in good things and go. It's the traditional like, okay, well, I don't have to have something go right for this. They just have to have removal that specifically targets creatures. But since some of the vehicles get so much value for coming into play, you still need to run that anti-vehicle or anti-artifact tech.
Sure.
So, for example, the Golgari Thundering Broodwagon or something like that.
Yes.
That comes into play and destroys something, a non-land permanent.
Yeah, destroy a non-land permanent opponent controls with mana value 4 or less. That is so many things.
Yes.
Target. Oh my goodness.
That is a lot of things. Yeah, it won't get rid of some things, but it's a lot of things that it kills on entry, and then it's a menace reach 3/5, 6/5, 4/3 that can cycle if it wants to, if you want to be able to reanimate it. Although, frankly, Golgari is best not as the reanimator deck. It has incidental reanimation that's already just good as far as like, but you just run good things in it, and then you're fine. And through the normal course of the game, you usually get there. So that's the thing, is like the vehicles that you do play that are expensive, you want to have an immediate impact. So to your point, not all removal targets vehicles, but a lot of the best stuff does, and that makes green very strong because you need creature removal for that, not artifact removal. And that common white spell, that the one in a white that kills an artifact or does X damage to target creature, where X is the number of like creatures you control or something like that.
Collision course, is that the one?
Permanents that are creatures and or vehicles. That one requires more things to go right because they can kill something in response, and then you don't have enough damage. So there's a lot there that like that makes green a little bit favored in terms of the removal game. When you're talking also about artifacts, proportions of like vehicles to creatures, that is a really difficult idea to figure out, because especially you also have to factor in some of these vehicles can become creatures on their own, or can crew by removing a creature from the graveyard. So in that sense, those can be treated more like a creature than a normal vehicle. But it's always really bad when you have an empty board and you draw a vehicle that you can't crew.
Oh, sure.
It's always really, really sad. And so you pay for that risk by making sure that your vehicles that you are running are really premium, and that you have a lot of synergies that value vehicles.
Sure.
But it is a really hard balancing act. You are absolutely correct. And there will still just be some times where variance gets you. Where you just don't have what you need. You have things that help vehicles out, but you don't have vehicles, or you have vehicles that you can't crew. So it's there's a more variance introduced that way. As vehicles have always been, they are a slight cost as well, because remember, to crew them, you need to tap a creature, and so you have to figure out whether that creature's better tapping or just attacking.
Sure.
Whether it's better to, tap that creature and attack with the vehicle, or tap, or just attack with that creature. Same thing with especially in Boros, the 3/1 that it has should be attacking. A 3/1 in Boros, you want the aggression of the 3/1. But the signpost that is the 3/1 there produces little pilots when you play, and a number of pilots equal to the number of vehicles and mounts that enter the battlefield that turn. But oftentimes making the pilots isn't as good as just swinging for 3, and you never know whether that 3 points of damage that you didn't swing for is going to have been worth those pilots. If it's multiple pilots, sure, but like maybe that one pilot, maybe not. Right?
Yeah.
That you get on turn 3, maybe.
Right.
So Cloudspire Coordinator, it's a little rough, right? You do Scry 2 and it's a 3/1, but do you want to spend that time creating those colorless pilot, that usually just that one colorless pilot token, right? Because you're not often putting 2 mounts and vehicles into play per turn. So it really does depend.
This strikes me as the kind of thing that's good if there was some method to produce like 4 or 5 of those vehicle tokens at once, but I don't think we have anything like that, right? Like, yeah.
And it's just that it doesn't really synergize with much of what Boros wants to do. I mean, going wide is an idea, but you don't want to go wide necessarily this way, where you have to tap a creature to do it. Oftentimes that's a huge cost for Boros. So, the red rare Rabble Bastard Part 2, the goblin that poops out goblins and with haste.
The goblin
with
party
Search Your
bus.
Engines.
Yeah.
That's way better for going wide because it's free. And so that's, of course, why it's a rare. But that in Boros, that tap cost is such a huge thing that the uncommon is one of the weaker cards, signposts that you have in this for any color pair. So, but just the negotiation of whether you're attacking, whether you're tapping to do certain abilities, etc., that's always going to be have been a a consideration. But it's an even bigger consideration in this, just because vehicles are a cost to your deck. They need to be often treated more like spells than creatures. And so you have to be careful with exactly the ratio that you play in the deck. And you also have to get a little bit lucky with the sequence of draws. So it's an interesting negotiation always. It's another thing to consider, but it does tell you when green is winning, and green usually uses the least number of vehicles overall as a color. It has 1/7/6 Trampler. That's great. Again, but can crew with creatures from the graveyard. It doesn't have to tap. But like when green is using fewer artifacts and it's the winningest color, using the fewest vehicles and has, it's the winningest color, that should tell you something about the consistency, right? And so,
yeah, absolutely.
That's not to say you should always draft green. And you shouldn't draft Boros. Boros can be open. Absolutely. You'll be fighting with the rares though, because some of the best rares are monocolored, not dual colored. And so that's why Boros suffers again, is that a lot of, that red rare, like anybody who's in red is going to want that card.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
card is just sick. So the Gruul player is going to want it. The Izzet player is going to want it, et cetera, and so forth. The Rakdos players would kill for it.
And that person who's mostly monocolor through pack 1 would be more than happy to pivot for it. Yeah,
exactly.
Easily. Oh yeah.
So that's what you're fighting with against these sorts of things is if you're in the open color, if you open lane, go for it. Like you're gonna get powerful cards. You're gonna be able to maybe win stuff. It's just less consistent overall. And so you have to get more of the powerful cards in order to do better. And even then you have to draw well. So same thing for cycling. The Izzet deck is also one of the bottom ones, just because you require the cycling deck doesn't really want to cycle its cards. A lot of the cards that have cycle are things that you want to play, or things that you don't want to play at all. And so you just don't want to put them in your deck to just cycle them, because what if you really actually just need a card to play? So there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. Obviously, the Mako, the Shark, and the Flying Ray are the best ways to take advantage of that. If you can get those and get them out early, great. But if you don't get them out early, they're going to be poor draws later on. And then you're just not able to maximize them with the amount of bounce as well that exists in this. If you come up against blue, that's your worst matchup, because they just have the unsummon that also can target vehicles. I mean, that blows you out of the water here, so to speak. Fish, pirate, and shark. Anyway, but that really blows you out of the water, because they bounce off that those creatures, and they're tiny again. And to work to make them big enough as to be threats is hard.
Yeah.
So you also have to draw with these two mechanics. You have to draw a mix of things. So you have to draw a mix of mounts and vehicles and actual creatures to saddle them or mount, which is why the mounts are slightly more valuable than the vehicles, because the mounts are already creatures, and that is a really good feature for them to be consistent and actually attacking and don't require something else to go right. They do kind of require another creature to get their maximum value, but the mounts are in general more consistent than the vehicles. But if you have mounts and vehicles, and then you have things that benefit mounts and vehicles, you have to draw a series of those in a good sequence. Whereas if you just draw that 4-drop into the mammoth, into the there's just too many things that just go right easily. You don't actually have to have the sequence go so right for some of the other decks.
So would it be fair to say that it feels like maybe Aetherdrift is a little too synergy dependent in a lot of its archetypes? Like, it sounds like they're a little too complicated in what they're trying to do, maybe, to be consistent.
Vehicles always were. It's not really like synergy. It's like vehicles always were a cost. They always have been. So they better be damn good for you to run them, and or you just have to kind of draw well in sequence. there's a reason that Cube doesn't incorporate many vehicles, right? You see Sky Sovereign, which is in this, and has a crazy win rate. But you
Crazy.
don't see that many other vehicles in Cube, is because they're just not powerful enough. They require too much to go right, and they just don't do enough on their own. So vehicles have always been this way ever since they were first printed in Kaladesh, I think.
Yes.
And so they've always had that issue. So they have to be very powerful to be able to be run. And so it's just, it's always been a trade-off. So synergy dependent isn't really much of how I would describe it. I think I know what you're saying, but like I would mostly just say that vehicles have always been something that is a large cost in terms of consistency. So you have to be careful about them. You have to treat them as spells, not as creatures for the most part, unless they enter and do some, and do something major, like become a creature, which is, for an extra cost, which several of them do. I mean, we've got a blue uncommon, one in a blue that's really quite nice. Which, Refueler,
it's a
I think it is.
Defense, right? Is that the
Yeah.
Or
no, Refueler. Ranger's Refueler, I think it is. Or Hanger's Refueler. I don't even know what it is.
Oh, Rangers.
I forget what it is.
Yep.
I recognize by art, not by name
I
usually these
get that.
days.
Yeah, 3/3 for one to blue whenever
so-
you activate an exhaustibility, draw a card. Which I mean that would be
It's
if
already
you
good
have a lot of
static effect,
abilities.
it's a spell, but it can
that's
then
just
become
a
a
decent
creature
artifact.
for 4. There's also a red one that can become a creature if you tap down. It's a 4 and a red, and if you tap down another creature, or creatures and stuff, it becomes a creature, and then it gets +1/+1 for each mount and vehicle you control. Other mounted vehicle you control.
Ah, that's right.
So,
Yeah, I did get a chance
that's a
to.
fine card.
I did get one of those in my Spire mech cycle. That
Yeah.
I did get one of those in one of those Hazard decks, and the one game where I was able to actually get it going, it was pretty darn sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a great card. This one I don't like as much as I like the Refueler or the red the Gruul colors signpost artifact that can become a creature, Rocketeer Boost Buggy, I think it is.
Right.
That one can also
Yes.
become a creature and get you treasures by attacking early. At the very least, they're not going to be like completely dead cards in theory, right?
Right.
But like if you get a late game 3/3 flying vigilance for and crew for 1, that's just, you don't have a creature. Like if you don't have a creature, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't
What do you
matter.
do? Yeah.
So exactly. So you need to think of them as basically vehicles you need to think of them as additions to your creature. Like, okay, this creature, my 2/2 creature, if it says saddle 2, crew 2, gets plus this and gains these attributes, right? So it's a recurring way to do that, but you absolutely have to have a creature for it. So you have to factor that into your deck building. So that was a long discussion of why vehicles have always been a mess in Limited.
So would the balance? Did they get? As far as the balance goes, I mean, it sounds like a vehicle-heavy set was going to be a tough sell or kind of a challenge pretty heavily, no matter what.
It's definitely a challenge, especially for newer players. So you'll see a lot of like worse records in the newer players, definitely. That's mitigated by the fact that there are a million I win the game bombs, and we'll talk about that later. But it is a challenge for the less experienced players. There's a lot of less experienced drafters that I've been hearing from who are not liking this set.
Yeah.
And
bottom line, do you enjoy it? Are you having fun? Feel free to, I mean, if you don't mind me.
Let me talk about why. Let's talk about this.
Okay.
So
that's
you
fine.
mentioned that you appreciate speed.
Yes. Yes, I was enjoying speed because it creates a new layer to combat, I guess is how I would summarize it. So what are your thoughts on speed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that layer.
Okay, fair.
And here's why. Okay.
Yeah.
So first off, while you mentioned that it feels like a slower set, and to some degree it is, just because it doesn't win a game, on early doesn't mean that game isn't already won.
Sure. Okay. Fair.
Okay. So this set, while it is the case that you could survive for like 8-9 turns, as it tends to go to, like, according to untapped.gg, it tends to go to 9.2 turns, which is just past the middle towards a slower set, but just not.
Okay.
It's in the middle.
All right.
So it goes just it's in the middle, but it's still like it's not as fast as certain sets we've had recently.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that the games weren't over before then.
And
here's why.
Having to play another
degree.
turn or two of a game that's been decided is one of the most frustrating elements in any format of Magic. So okay. Yeah.
And this is in part due to speed. So the speed mechanic, it has start your engine cards. Any card that reads start your engines starts you on 1 for speed. Without a start your engine card, speed doesn't factor into anything. So it's like night and day to that point.
Right.
Any card with start your engines will also give you a benefit once you have max speed. If you have anything less than max speed doesn't factor into anything. Max speed is the only time at which you get benefits.
There are, I think, 2 instances that I can think of that do care about what your speed number is. There's the Samet, which is, I believe, a rare, and then Momentum Breaker.
Sorry.
Has an ability.
Yes. Sorry.
But,
okay. You're
but those are
about
the
rares.
exception, not the rule. Generally speaking.
Yeah. Sorry.
Max,
Yes, you're
it's either
absolutely
max or
correct.
not.
Yes. Yeah. So Samet is a rare that does give benefits equal to the number of the amount of speed you have. Momentum Breaker, you can gain life equal to the amount of speed you have.
Which
sorry.
you generally don't.
You're absolutely correct.
But I think those are the only 2 in the entire set.
No, there's one more. There's one more. There's the Mythic Demon that draws you cards at a cost of a life per speed. So,
and funnily enough, in many cases, if you have the Speed Demon down, you don't want max speed because taking 4 to the face every turn is really rough. Even
you would
4
think,
cards
except
is great,
they
though.
also run Honey Mammoths and then completely counteract that.
Oh well, okay, fair enough then.
I hate this card.
That's fair.
I hate this card. I hate it.
You mean to?
And if you're drawing 4 cards per turn because you're that late in the game, you're going to win anyway.
You're gonna win the next turn, sure. Yeah.
So
you mean to tell me there's a mythic black demon that's like really good?
Crazy. The fail case on this sucker is the Phyrexian Arena.
Yeah, which is fine. Like that's great.
What do you mean?
A 5/5 flying trample. Yeah, a 5/5 Frample Phyrexian Arena.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Phyrexian Arena is a crazy card in Limited. Like, absolutely crazy card. And this is that on a stick with a 5/5 flying trample body for 5 that also ups your speed for other things. Like, oh, God.
And it triggers on the end step, so you're like...
Flample.
Not quite guaranteed, but like almost guaranteed to get the first draw, no matter what. Yes. Yeah, it's pretty silly.
So...
Yep.
So here's here's the thing about speed. So, and what I'm talking about with like having lost a game before you've actually taken lethal, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of decks that get out really fast, really fast, because a lot of the stuff early, like it's not unusual to have a 3/1 on turn 2 and a 3/3 or a 3/3 on turn 2. So there's Sundial or whatever, the 3/3 vanilla creature. But by turn 3, you're almost always having something with 3 toughness. Which means that the being on the play is huge.
Yep.
I don't think I have a stat for that just yet, but it's out there, I'm sure.
Good. Yeah.
But
I can see why that would be bigger in this case. Absolutely. Yeah.
And stumbling is lethal. Because the creatures are very powerful on turn 1, 2, and 3. They're very powerful early creatures. And so stumbling is a death sentence. Not only for that reason, but because even if they put out a small creature, if you stumble and aren't able to deal with that, often that small creature has had start the engines, and they are going to be achieving max speed very easily and very quickly.
Right.
Now, what max speed does is it rewards you for being already ahead. If you are doing damage to your opponent regularly and easily, one assumes you are already ahead. That's
Fair.
the most frequent case.
Right.
So
yes.
in that extent, like it's not a win more as such, although you could call it that. Its main problem is that your opponent cannot catch up. It makes it that much harder for your opponent to turn the tides. Because you are already getting a free advantage for having been ahead, for having reached max speed. So your opponent is now you're pooping out 2/2s for free with a 4 and a black uncommon cat zombie. So you're pooping out 2/2s at the end of every turn, or when your creature dies, they're replaced by a zombie, a 2/2 zombie at the black-white rare, or you're getting to draw an extra card every turn by exiling it for the 3 and a red uncommon. So you're already getting so much advantage for just being ahead early. So for just being either on the play, getting through, having flyers and evasion, but like whatever it is, right? You're already getting that advantage. And again, that makes stumbling so much worse. And by stumbling, I don't only mean missing a land drop. I mean drawing just one extra land than you need. Can be punishing. Extremely punishing. So that's why I hate speed. I don't like mechanics that reward you for already being ahead, like already doing well, especially in terms of a going first thing. Because I've never been a fan of anything that privileges being on the play versus draw so greatly. Like I think it's meant to be an equal game between two equal people, and they're trying to mitigate that by giving you a one fewer card for going first, but it's not enough these days.
No, it's not. That's actually something that I like about, some mechanics, not necessarily that we see in Aetherdrift, but they're doing that more and more, where like land tax itself was a bit extreme, but they're giving like white a lot of cards where like if your opponents have more lands than you, go get a land or make a treasure, so like those kinds of effects, and those just slightly benefit you if you're behind, so if you're second. And I think that's elegant design space that they've been working in a lot, and I think that's cool. So because it's the opposite of what you're talking about.
Outside of white, though. Yeah. The only thing that does it outside of white, though, in this set, for example, is the 3/1 artifact that gives you a treasure if your opponent has more lands than you do. It's a good, card for defensive decks, controlling decks, or decks that want to get to late game, because it can get you that treasure and ramp you. But it's also a 3/1 blocker, which unfortunately doesn't block 1/1s very well. And there's a lot of Thopters. This one doesn't have flying, but there's a lot of Thopters. There's a lot of little mouse dudes in green that are 1/1s that attack when they make, and then, with their exhaust, they can make a 3/3, etc. But this doesn't want to block a 1/1 because that's not profitable. It definitely wants to block up and wants to block those 3/3s. But again, this deck, if you're in also an aggressive deck, and you're going second, you have to have another plan. You can't run this Ticket Tortoise. You can't run this thing. It can't attack. It can crew things, but it's not going to attack. So you can't run this. So if you're against an aggressive deck and you're going second, you are at a large disadvantage.
If I don't have a decent number of vehicles that have like crew 3 on them, I'm not running this. Like I'm just not.
Well, I mean, again, you don't want to be overrun if you are a slightly more controlling deck, and there are a lot of controlling decks. And oddly, you'd think that blue-white would be a controlling deck, but it's not. This actually goes in the blue-white deck, not because it wants to control, but because it wants to ramp. The blue-white deck is actually a ramp deck.
Huh. Interesting.
Because if you look at Ticket Tortoise, it's a 3/1 that actually allows you to produce, a treasure token if your opponent went first. It's kind of useless if they didn't, but because you don't want to play it when they have fewer lands, it's just not worth it. But it ramps you in theory, and then on 3 you always kind of want to be playing the 2/4 2 and a white that makes all your artifacts cost 1 less to play.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the ramp deck. So it is a really cool new take. It's really not blue-white really isn't about tempo. It's about ramp and aggro, essentially. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and that would there are a lot of I did notice there seemed to be a lot of large like white artifacts, and I thought that looked odd. I was trying to kind of
doesn't it?
Like I think it was the detention chariot. I think it was. I remember looking at that.
Yeah,
thing,
that one
like
at least cycles,
weird...
so it's never useless because you can at least replace it. But it's a good card in this. But again, you want to ramp to it, and that's what you're doing with those.
It makes sense.
There's another 6-drop uncommon that's the signpost that fetches you up an artifact or vehicle, an artifact period. It doesn't have to be or vehicle, and puts into play if its mana cost is 2 or less.
Yes, which I really want to find some kind of repurposing bay combo nonsense with that. I haven't cracked the code yet, but someday
haven't cracked the code yet.
Yeah, the Guidelight Pathmaker. I fully trust it.
Yeah, 6/5 vigilance. When it enters, you can search your library for an artifact card and reveal it. Put it onto the battlefield if its mana value is 2 or less. Otherwise, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Blah. Yeah.
I know a lot of mad scientists are out there digging through all of the artifacts that cost 2 from Magic's history to come up with something silly with this.
Yes, to try and make this into a thing.
Keep at it, folks. You're freaking amazing. Keep doing what you're doing.
But again, that detention chariot is a problem too because again, it's a 6 mana artifact still. No matter if you made it cheaper, it's still a 6 mana artifact. And while it does remove something from play, there's so much artifact destruction that you often have to be like, well, I'm not going to take your best creature. I'm going to take your Thopter, so at least you can't get back.
Right.
So there's a lot of like suboptimal plays that sometimes you have to make just because, you're aware of so much craziness in terms of artifact-based removal.
Right.
And maybe you just make the optimal play and pray and hope you get lucky. And
make them have it, right? Yep, absolutely.
And I don't.
Oh no!
So there we are. But yeah, so that's what's going on. A lot of the times here is we have such an advantage as far as I'm concerned for going first especially because of this max speed mechanic, and just really powerful early drops in this. So it's just it's a lot. So your deck has to be. The thing is, your deck has to be capable of answering these early threats, but it also has to be capable of a late game because while there are some early game bombs, there are a lot of mid-rangey bombs that you really have to be able to handle. And that can be difficult in figuring out what you need to do because if you have to use your removal early on something smaller, there's definitely going to be something bigger coming your way. I guarantee it. So you have to be, lightning strike, you do have to get rid of some stuff and that's important. And you can get the final points of damage to some people's faces, but it actually has a lower win rate than it used to, for, a lot of reasons. But it's just not, it doesn't take care of stuff in the late game. And if 3 damage to the face is what you need, great, but if you need 4, you're done. And because if their creatures are too big, you're good. It's still a great card. It's just not as good as it used to be. So that's why red is having a little bit of a struggle because Boros doesn't, that lightning strike is often not enough to get there, or to take out some of the more important threats. If your aggro is so easily answered by the big green or by the bounce or by you see it? Like, it's just, and they're playing 4/4s and the lightning strike doesn't remove them in time. And so you got to be on the play. You got to, that's the most important part is be on the play, but you also have to make the good decisions in terms of whether you're crewing or whether saddling or just swinging, or whether you are, and when you need to remove things and when you need to hold on to your premium removal. like the Exile, etc. So there's a lot going on with this set. And I'm pretty sure that I have not mastered it at all. Because I know my win rate is a lot less than many. And it's definitely the worst win rate I think I've ever had.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we've had really bad
unfortunate.
land luck. The chat's been joking about it, honestly.
Well, hey,
but
if the content coming out of it is all right, the community's coming together, then okay,
the
it's not all
community's
bad.
like, yay, we're messed.
Oh,
we're
man.
effed by the shuffler, yay.
Yeah, unfortunate.
So, yeah, I had someone come in and be like, okay, look, I know there's bad luck, but then there's this.
Right.
It was really funny.
Frustrating.
I was like, welcome to the stream. But
Right.
so that's not to say that I play the best, or that I draft the best, or that I'm understanding the set as well as I should. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we drafted a draft deck, for example, the one that got that got screwed and then flooded out. Had 3 Makos in it. It was pure cycling deck. It had really good stuff. It was really good.
Oh,
But the land.
that sounds so
It didn't
frustrating.
see a single Mako on turn 1. And it so it all had to mulligan 2 out of its games, and it only played 4.
Oof.
And so one game it's got stuck on 4 mana for the entire game. It went through until half the deck.
Holy cow.
So and then the next 2 were 11 and 12 lands respectively in the first part of the deck. So I still had 22 cards left in the 11 one. So it was just it was unbelievable. So I wanted to play that deck so badly, but Arena said no. So sometimes that's just depressing.
Absolutely.
But you can get the cards and just not get the sequence. Like if you don't get the Makos or the other things to do it, it's just and the 1/4 for the cycling deck that whenever you cycle a card it pings, and if you cycle it pings.
Yes.
Magma something I think. But it's a 1/4. It's not it's meant to be defensive, but it's not defensive enough because so many things can get to 4 power so easily. That it's not good enough as a defensive body for 3 mana. It just doesn't do enough to make it worth it. Like we tried, I think we had 5 of those in that deck.
Wow.
We
because
tried
who else is taking them?
just because we had 3 Makos.
Well, and it's
We
clearly
had 3 Makos, and we had 5
100%.
of these. We had the Shark Rare. We had it was a beautiful deck. We had 3 Bounce Off, I think, in that one as well, and a Lightning
Holy
Strike,
cow.
and it was a beautiful deck. That Shuffler did not let us play.
That sounds like
possibly
the greatest 1/3 deck of all time. Like that's
of all time. Yeah, no.
like wow.
There were things missing from it. Like there were things that I wanted, but it had really good stuff, including the artifact that let you loot when you attacked. It was the vehicle. That vehicle's good for that deck, of course.
Absolutely.
But yeah, anyway, it was tragic. But that happens. But again, more things required to go right. You need the sequence.
Yeah, but a cycling deck, you see more cards in a cycling deck. How did? Anyway, that's yikes. I'm sorry.
You see more. You would see more cards if you didn't only see lands.
Yeah, I suppose. Fair enough.
I cycled. No, that's the thing is I cycled through. I was halfway through my deck with just 4 lands because I cycled, to try to find lands and couldn't.
Sure.
And all I needed was that 5th land because I had 2 of the turtle shells in my hand. The blue shells that are the only way you interact with speed. So basically the Mario Kart blue shells, I had 2 of those in hand because that's what I had drawn, unfortunately. And I had 4 lands. I was stuck on 2 for the first 3 or 4 turns. And I was cycling to try to find lands. And finally I hit the 4th land way later. But I just needed 1 more for these 2 Spike Shell Harriers, and I probably could have won that game. But just 1 mana off there didn't work, and we were, like I said, we were cycling to try to find him, just never hit it.
Oh man.
Brutal.
That's awful. Yeah.
So yeah, we had 2 of those in hand. It was brutal. It was so bad. But tragic. It's the decks that you love that you don't get to play most that you're like, oh, that hurts the worst.
Yeah.
but there's so much going on there, and the sequencing has to be right. Those two cards, the two turtles, the turtles are great. They are a very good card. They're huge tempo swing, and they're just, you know, a good pickup in this. Not only to take somebody off of max speed who's on it, or it slows them down from getting max speed, but it's a good blocker, and it also puts a creature back into their hand. It's just great. Creature or vehicle. So it's really nice. So there's no reason not to run two of them in your deck, but if you draw two of them that you can't play because your deck is like, hey, have 4 mana, for your first half of your deck, there's nothing you can do. So anyway, my deck was, I think it said my deck was 63% lands by the end. Yeah.
Yikes.
So something like that. So it was just great. And we were just looking for that land so hard. But anyway, so looking at the other stuff.
Yeah.
So max speed. This is why I don't like the max speed. It's just not fun.
No, that's interesting. Yeah.
I don't like it. The animation they have in Arena is pretty cool.
It is. There is one detail that it is loud. There is one detail that I almost don't want to mention because I'm afraid you might just never unsee it. And
fans.
But the fans, yes.
The fans
I don't know. I love having ninjutsu available at all times.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
I keep thinking I'm doing something with ninjutsu. The fans are awful. Every single streamer complained about it in the early access event. And my chat,
every time we were on it, every time it was like, these damn fans. Yeah, I know.
Fans. So they're so distracting.
Yeah, but the other detail with the speed indicator on the left-hand side, it shows like a very colorful, and the sound design on it and the little like haptics, little like particle effects, excellent. No notes. It's got kind of the neon raceway thing going on. It shows a series of like chevrons pointed up, but they fill in from the top down. So when you're on max speed 1, it's the top chevron that is pointing up that is lit up, and you think it should start from the bottom and go up.
Well,
and
that's stupid.
A little bit. It's just like everything else about this is good, but like, why is it not moving in the direction of the arrow? Like, that
is weird.
Somebody pointed that out, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to unsee that. Thanks, appreciate it. And so now I'm sharing that with all of you guys. So feel free to get bugged by that.
It just because it is a little bit distracting anyway. I only look over and look at the number underneath.
Yeah.
So
and speaking of when it comes to annoying stuff, fun fact, I actually got the pre-order bundle for Aetherdrift, and I had the Spikeshell Harrier as my pet for a while, and a couple people in chat commented, because I do viewer battles, and they commented that it was very distracting while we were fighting, because when you do anything, it just zips across the screen, like anything. You tap a land.
That's awful.
Well, that's a bit extreme. I'm not saying it's quite that.
I have a pet rock.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I literally switched to Dwayne, the rock. I did do that after, because like, we know what? Okay, we're not gonna have any of these problems with Dwayne. I know it's gonna be all right.
Yeah, yeah. I have Dwayne. Dwayne. Dwayne makes me happy. I can poke his little googly-eyed self when I feel like it. And he gives me a lovely happy jiggle. And that's it.
The other one I love is Fibblethip every now and then, because you can just give him a little poke and he'll just give you the wave. It's like, oh, hey, Fibs, what up? It's just like, whenever I'm just feeling down, it's like Fibs just like, hey, bud. It's like, oh, hey, Fibs.
There's so many pets that I have to mute that I'm just like, that is so distracting and annoying. So like,
oh yeah.
But Dwayne has a special place in my heart. So does the fish from Kamigawa.
Same. I thought
that was my old one, but before Dwayne. Yeah. But yeah, so yes. Yeah. Okay, so good to know on that. Excellent. That I'll never put the Spikeshell Harrier pet.
It like as you're like, I think if you deal combat damage,
all the other ones that have the same a shell, I want to say, but like basically
right. That same shape. I think they all do the same thing. They have, and
they all
their little victory dance is pretty fun, but they'll like spin in place and they zip across the screen. I don't know if you remember the Core 20 dogs, the lightning dog in that set.
I hate the lightning dog. I turn it off every time because it goes all the time, and I'm just like, I can't.
And then it'll like zip across the screen and do this, do a thing when you when you do good things. Like
I mute it so early these days, I don't even know what else it does, but besides bzzzt all the time.
I actually have emotes and all that jazz disabled on mine because I'd rather not deal with it. Yeah, the pets are constantly sleeping on my side, and I love it.
Which So I can say hi to people, but on occasion we
Sure.
get the asshat who wants to be like Yorgo,
Yeah.
or
I
GG me early, which is so much fun. Um,
on I actually disabled all of my emotes specifically because I got to a point where every time I saw even a hello, I just
Oh.
assumed it was going to be one of those people. And I was like,
one of those
it got,
people.
so no matter what my opponent's intentions were, I had a negative reaction every single time. And I muted everyone who even said hello. So I was like, I'm just going to turn these off. I'm just going to not deal with any of these.
That's fair. I
Yeah.
may have to do that at some point, but right now I still assume a hello is friendly for sometimes. And
99%
then
of the time it is. You know, like there's nothing wrong with a
I
hello.
only equip emotes that I think can't make my opponent feel bad. Like I'll equip angry emotes and stuff like that, where like I'll be angry because they're doing so well, and that can't really make them feel bad.
Sure.
I'll equip the love emotes, and I'll equip
Yes.
the GG emotes. But
Well, the
that's
GGs
basically it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'll do a the phrases are like howdy or like tarnation or like
Right.
yeehaw.
Honestly, with the achievements, I just unlocked the nice deck emote. I was like, do I need to turn
Ooh.
emotes on? Because now I can say nice deck to people. And that's something that, like,
But that can be
you know,
interpreted ironically. Nice deck.
I mean, it could be, but I would only use it when they were doing something truly unique.
Okay,
You know?
then you're good. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I've had opponents
I wouldn't just
like,
spam the Esper Pixie players with that. I wouldn't, or, it would,
yeah.
like, red deck wins, nice deck. Yeah, no, I'm
Nice
not doing
deck.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice deck.
There's a one emote that I really want to get soon, and I forget what it is. Oh, never didn't have it or something like that. That's a good one. And there's another one that I really want. So they've come up with some good ones for the achievements. Hopefully
Definitely.
I'll get some of those. But yeah, so okay, so now onto the like powerful cards. And
Yep.
so
Let's get into it. Where are we starting?
yeah. So
yeah, hey, you know what? All this awesome, intricate back and forth that we've had, never mind. I'm just
never
gonna
mind. That
resolve
didn't
this and
matter.
win.
That didn't matter at all.
None of that
I just
counted.
played this card.
Yep,
Yeah, so I've gotten soloed by Speed Demon a lot.
I believe it.
As much as you would think that at a cost of 1 life per card, even for 4, there's enough incidental life gain in this that can be played that is enough to offset that. It's just too good. So if you don't remove it right away, they've gotten so much advantage out of it. It's
I believe it. Well, and the 5/5 flyer was going to do enough work. Most of the time
flammable.
anyway.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
It's going to do damage to you. It's going to increase your speed most of the time. So they don't even have to attack with it for it to get the advantage. You can just sit back and be a crazy blocker.
Yeah.
So like if it's early game, they can just sit back and increase their speed and keep drawing like 1, 2, 3, 4 cards each turn. And then start attacking with it when they've built their board out to be crazy and gotten that much advantage. So it is dumb. But it's only listed in the A- tier because it only has a played win rate of 64.2%. 64.2%. Those used to be the bombs.
Yeah. And now that's
So like
that's
A
pretty
tier. Good. But that's A-. That's not even A plus, or S.
What are we doing here? Oh my goodness. Okay.
So let's talk about some of the S's.
Yes, let's.
Sab Sunan is my personal pet peeve.
Yup. Yeah, during the streamer event, I did one draft, and I got absolutely bodied by this. If I remember, or was that anyway? There was one time it hit the board, and it's like, nope. Like,
and for something like red green, or even black, there's no answer to it.
Yeah.
Because black
like literally
doesn't really
zero.
have exile.
Like you just can't.
Like, black doesn't really have exile. Red green doesn't have access to the blue. Tap it down and it loses abilities. Or bounce it. And green can't kill it because it's indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
And red can't kill it because it's indestructible. And it's huge, so you're not trampling over it, really. And
Right.
it's got reach, so you're not flying over it.
And it grows.
So, but it doesn't just, what it does is it draws you 2 cards, or it gets bigger and can attack and block.
Yeah.
So this card is not something that ever should have been printed for Limited, and it has a played win rate of 72.8%.
What?
Play this card, win your game.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean, and I'm definitely curious about.
That's
What are the
untapped
situations in which you lose?
statistics.
Like, no, I believe you.
And that's out of a total of 17,000 games. So it's not a small sample size.
Yikes. But honestly, just thinking about it, yeah, I believe it. Because
I mean, yeah, there's
what can
no
you do?
reason that this card should ever be in Limited. Like, Limited is not the same game if this card is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not the same thing that that most Limited players prize, which is I'm using lesser powered cards and I'm using all of my available skill to maximize what I get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
This card just reads play card, win game. Like, unless you're beyond, if this is the only thing you have in play and it can't block, like, and they're just about to kill you, cool, right?
Well, and I bet
those are the like whatever percentage where you don't
26
win,
or whatever 28% that didn't win. Yeah, like that's what it was. They were trying to stabilize off an empty board. Yeah.
Yes.
And the opponent only needed the lightning strike to deal 3 to their face or something. You know, like that's like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
oof.
You know, or they drew, they were on an empty board and they held it off for 1 turn by playing it while it could block, but then they drew 2 cards and those 2 cards are lands. That'd be me.
Right. Yeah. Oh no. Well, right. Oh God.
But that's that one. Then we have so that's the problem. Again, we have cards like this that just read I win the game. I've got a bunch of those to list for you just really quickly, and then we'll go into the cards that don't literally win the game right as they do it, but they make blocking really, really a bad concept. So or like you have to interact with them right away. So let's go through so Sky Sovereign hasn't been played in a lot of games, only 3,200. It has a 69.7% win rate, as you would expect, because it's a stupid powerhouse of a card. Again, look at it. It's a card that gets an ETB, and as long as you can crew it once, you're usually just getting so much advantage that you don't care. And it's a 6/5 flyer that can block anything.
And I gotta be honest, this is the first time I'm seeing the special guest art for it, and they managed to make an angry fish Dalek blimp. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that. That's One of
the things. So I just did my first collector booster box opening for YouTube for this set.
Nice.
I actually have one more that I'm gonna open for the YouTube as well.
Ooh.
I didn't buy play boosters this time. I only bought collector boosters, but I kind of regret that because I really hate almost all of the alternate art.
Oh no.
Look up Agonosaur Rex, the alternate art.
Oh, I know this one.
It is the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, the kind of rat fink style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I hate it.
For the folks on the video feed, we've got it up right now. Yeah, it's
hideous. It has bulging bloodshot eyes. It has its lips are peeled back from its gums. Mm-hmm. It is spindly in a weird way. It's got a manic, freaking crazy, awful expression.
Yeah, and its rear legs are its hind legs are doing that kind of like Hanna-Barbera spin run.
Spin, yes, like
doesn't
comic
really make any
spin
sense.
run.
Yeah.
And it's just hideous. And for some people, they'll love this art, and I'm not trying to poop on their parade, but this for me is just, I will not play this card. I will only play the regular art because I hate this art so much. I don't want to look at it while I'm playing it. I want it to go away. This is something I will be giving away on stream because, and I'm really selling that too. I'm like, here, I hate this. Have it.
Get this away from me.
Get this away. I will pay you to take this. No. So, but anyway, so I opened some of that, and I really hate the alternate art. I really freaking hate most of the alternate art. The one thing I don't mind is like the white and a blue 1/3 that allows you when you get max speed rare to copy artifacts.
The Mendicant core.
Yeah, Mendicant core. Yeah.
The alternate art for that one.
I was gonna say core Mendicant, and then I was like.
Close enough. Yeah,
that
the
alternate
core.
art I think is
gorgeous.
fine. That looks like a Magic card still to me, and it's not like repulsive. So
I think
I'm
a
good
lot
with
of the graffiti style I think works a lot better in unless like that kind of goofy rat fink kind of hot rod thing. And like for people who are into that, it's fine, but it's
too,
a very big
where the background just looks neon. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like
fair enough.
Try like an alternate art of the
like the lumbering world wagon, like
try that. Like yes, let's see.
Yeah, so the lumbering world wagon like alternate
Rangers
art.
Refueler.
Yeah, this
I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah, it actually has a literal like starting flag break dancer in front of it, and it's got a big and
it's got a weird camel
thing in front. Yeah,
it
definitely is like the start
camel and graffiti in the back, and like
it is trying really hard
on it.
Oh. Yeah, it's trying really hard to be like the start of a Run DMC music video. It's trying so hard.
I just definitely the pants are pure Run DMC. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yes, it's just I hate that one. I also hate the like. Look up there's an uncommon red artifact. No, look up the common red artifact. Just look up the one in a red that gives +2/+0 and trample.
Burner rocket. This little guy.
So that one's fine. That one's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. But if you look at the any of the red ones, the like red Arab artifacts thing,
like Boommobile.
That one's still better. Better.
It's heavily stylized, but not terrible.
Try Rangers Refueler.
Okay.
Oh, it's the white one that I'm thinking of. That's what it is. The 3/2 that scries when it enters the battlefield. It's like a red background with blue, and it's like hideous. Meh.
Oh yeah, wow. That is the Spot Cycle Scouter.
That's
3/2 for 2. When enters the scry 2, crew 1.
And that's not even the worst of them, actually. I'm still like I went through so many. Here, I have this. I have this stuff in front of me. I should just find one that's just awful.
Yeah, this looks like I would want
that one's not
this.
The most egregious of them.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like a blacklight poster. It's like if this is not something you want to look at while you are in your right mind. Let's say that's the vibe I get for this. When you are clear-headed.
That was not as bad. Okay, so let's go. I'm gonna find in my
it's got a lot
pile.
going on. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
The other one. The other one that's right next to it.
Spire Mech Cycle is not great.
Okay.
Broadcast Ramblers, another graffiti one.
Which I gotta say, I love that card exists just as a streamer. I feel seen. Which
broadcast Rambler.
Yeah, like I get that. It's me. All right.
It's me.
I ramble on broadcasts all the time. Well, yeah.
Me too.
So but it's again got a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just there's Rover Blades, another graffiti one. Rover Blades is horrid too.
Rover Blades. I love the fact that exists only because it is unicycle. Do you remember that playtest card?
Which playtest card?
Unicycle.
Oh, unicycle.
3/1 equipment vehicle. Equipped creature has first strike. Well, Rover Blades is a 2/2 equipment vehicle that gives the creature double strike. The costing,
Yep.
the costs are different, but it's an equipment vehicle. They did it. They actually did it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not playing this card anywhere.
And then they called it
it's fun that
Rover Blades. Did you see what they did there?
Matt. Oh yeah. And this is straight out of like Jet Set Radio for the Dreamcast is what I see here.
I don't like it. It's not my style. If it's your style, awesome. I'm so happy. Let me send you these cards.
See, it's funny. In general, I don't hate these. Like, I'm not necessarily going to go out of my way for them, but like, I opened a couple myself, and
they're not as egregious as the Aganosaur Rex and the the insect, the rare insect.
Not Atchik.
No,
because Atchik's promo
and X.
is, I think, it's pretty.
Double green and X. The insect that's not very good. Web Strike Elite.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is hideous too.
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. Well,
it's not what I want on my Magic cards. I want my Magic cards to be slightly pretty, or at least like interesting to look at. This one's like, oh. Anyway.
But my first
not my thing. So moving on from that.
But like.
Yeah, no, I hate it.
My boy Gas Guzzler, I love it. You know.
I hate it. I hate it so much. That alternate art Gas Guzzler is awful. The normal Gas Guzzler is Ben Stiller, and that's fine.
100%. Yeah. But it also comes in yellow.
Piss yellow.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dehydrated piss yellow.
Ugly. It's ugly. Like, I opened those and I was like, oh, it's going to be gold. No, it's not. No, it really
It looks
isn't.
better in person than it does in the high def images, to be sure.
Oh,
but
no. Like, it looks worse in person than on camera. On camera, it looks more gold. And at least my cameras. On camera, it looks more gold. And then in person, it looks piss yellow. And it's egregious. Like, it's so bad. Those I'm also not going to play. It's offensive to the eyes, my eyes.
Fair enough.
So hopefully somebody else will find it charming and wonderful.
I don't know. I don't hate this, but at the same time, I also enjoy mismatched white border basics. So take that for what it's worth. That's my.
I enjoy white border basics too, and all the other things. Like, but they look like Magic cards.
Fair.
And they're nice to look at. Like, the art on them is nice.
Yeah, that's actually something that I noticed. We have reached a point right now where on the secondary market, cards that just look like Magic cards are demanding a higher price point than the premium ones.
Yes.
Like,
yes. Okay. Actually, so this is a tangent from Limited, obviously, that we're doing. I'm sorry. But I want to take it a little further here. I literally just went through a lot of cards because I'm going through a lot of cards to give to the public library, and I went through literally every single common and uncommon that was a special treatment from the past bunch of sets. So I went through all the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty anime art treatments for commons and uncommons. I went through all of the showcase treatments from Midnight Hunt, Crimson Vow with the special borders and all and the special art. I went through all of the Baldur's Gate special stuff. None of it was worth anywhere near what the normal common was worth.
Which is wild, because
in fact, almost none of them were worth anything at all.
I believe it.
Even when the common or uncommon was worth enough to be a consideration, like 40 cents on TCG Player, which is really high for a common. A common can or an uncommon. Those can be 1 cent, right? Even when the normal was worth something, the alternate art was not.
Wow. So
they're printing these alternate art as special for you, but no one wants them, with very rare exceptions. So there's 1 or 2 maximum out of all of them. These are supposed to be special cool cards, and people are like, "This is shit. Don't do this."
Right.
We're not buying these on the secondary market. You don't have an audience for this. And it's depressing because. Yeah. some of those alternate arts are really cool, in fairness. Like, some of the anime treatments have an amazing perspective and an amazing artwork, but the card itself was bad, and so it wasn't worth anything, and the anime treatment wasn't enough for people to even want it.
Right.
So, for example, the light and perspective on God, it was I think, was it the red was it Heiko Yamazaki or something like that? Something like that. I think it might have been. But there's light and perspective used on that, and on the like the Ronin as well. Like, there was just some amazing artwork that was anime inspired and by Japanese artists, just really freaking amazing.
Like the Rainforest Ronin?
Thing.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's stunning.
Yeah, and anybody
yes,
out there
the card's not worth anything, so that's probably the reason this one isn't, but that artwork is epic.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, anybody who
should have made, since it's a special treatment, it should have been more valuable, but it's not. It's actually less valuable than the normal.
Which is wild. Yeah, if you haven't seen the secondary, well, and funnily enough, like Reinforced Ronin is a card that I have played a little bit with. I mean, it's it's an artifact creature. Yeah. It's a 2/2 for 1. Like, there was a time before the red got pushed beyond belief.
Right.
Where this was like a consideration if you're doing artifact aggro things. Like, it was all right. And so I definitely played with this. I hadn't seen this alternate art, and this is this is fantastic.
Isn't it stunning?
It is. Like, it's a gorgeous piece of art. You would think it would have some collector value just for that, but no.
I gave these all to the public library because they're not worth anything. And, it's depressing that a lot of the really cool alternate art that Wizards comes up with is not valued. But it's also depressing that a lot of the art that Wizards comes up with is just bad. I get nostalgia for Baldur's Gate, but look up Decanter of Endless Water, which is itself a $3 card. The alternate art is only $2. It does the same thing. But people are like, that is hideous. I don't want it.
This art style. So there's Baldur's Gate had a showcase treatment, and the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms did as well. There's a showcase treatment that it looks like sepia, almost like it's on parchment. It has kind of that old school tome vibe, and it's meant.
And then there's just black and white drawings on it, often quite elementary in style. Like, look up Balmor. No, not Balmor. The uncommon that's white and red, then cares about equipment. You can equip for 0. There's the B. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I mean, even look up just like Trelisara, like Tralala herself.
Like Brunor Battlehammer?
Yeah, Brunor, that's the one.
Brunor,
right?
Oh boy, I love this guy. Yeah.
So this one's a little bit more advanced, but now look up Trelisara. That's Adventures in Forgotten Realm. Look up Baldur's Gate. It was Tralala, or actually, she's also Adventures, right?
Yeah, she was Adventures. Yeah, Trelisara Moon Dancer.
Yeah, and they're more comic style inspired. And I think Baldur's Gate was much worse, actually.
The Baldur's Gate ones looked a little more, I don't know about rushed, but they were a
more
little
sketch.
They were a little
these were
looser.
At least a little bit more detailed. But like, this doesn't look like the artwork is just, the background's all yellow and all's one color, and like
what
it does look like the books I think in the past.
It looks like
illustrations.
First and second edition, like Monster Manual or Player's Handbook in D&D.
Yeah,
and so
nobody
it's funny.
wants them.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I thought these were very cool and very interesting because they're a piece of, or they kind of harken back to a piece of D&D history. But funnily enough, like, I've been playing D&D for a really long time, but I started with 3.5. The books didn't look like this when I started, you know, and I think that's true for a lot of people our age. So it's like, any Magic players out there, if you had like parents or grandparents in some cases who were playing D&D when it first came out, these probably look neat or like a fond memory, but like, how big is that market really? It's so what they were going for was a cool idea. I suspect if they made it, if they had formatted the frame to look more like a modern day like stat block of a monster from one of those books, it probably would have worked so much better. And then they would have been able to have modern art that was similar to what they were doing with Magic cards anyway. And like
some of the
a change of font,
some of the tokens on the back had the stats. So
which
like
is cool.
on the back of like an owl bear, they had the token, the stats or something like that, or like a mimic.
Yeah,
the mimic, yeah.
Which is cool.
So they had those.
That. Yeah.
But like if you look up Shadowheart or whatever it was,
Shadowheart, yes.
Baldur's Gate.
It's so funny.
It's just so it's I like the comic book style a lot. The inked style for some of those from AFR, okay. It's the surroundings that are a little bit more a problem, but the style of like stuff from that was just not as good. This one's actually a decent example of one of the better ones, but I'm trying to think of the worst ones.
In my opinion, the Shadowheart showcase is actually significantly better than the original, and I think it has more to do with the crop, not necessarily the art. But like I played with this card on Arena. I mean, well, the alchemized version of it. I was playing some kind of like Death Shadow style, like self-burn, thing with it. It was fun. I literally didn't realize Shadowheart was a woman until I start, just based off this artwork. Like I genuinely thought Shadowheart, like honestly, I couldn't tell. And so like as a dude, I kind of just mentally defaulted to male, and it's like, no, Shadowheart's actually a pretty lady. It's like, oh, well, damn, I had no idea, like until I started the game. It's like, oh, you're Shadowheart. I don't know that was,
yeah.
Anyway, so.
But that sounds like a you problem.
No. And I'm not
assuming that it's male.
No. Well, but I also didn't. I don't believe I don't believe I referred to it as he at any point. I was like, I don't know. Shadowheart.
I'm just
but anyway,
playing with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
no,
yes.
But at the same time, this artwork is so far away from the character that you can't really see her, and
right.
And at this point, this card came out like a year before Baldur's Gate 3 released, and so we didn't know her yet, and so that was a, I don't know, it was a missed opportunity, I think. Whereas the showcase art is at least like an actual like representation of the character that's a little closer and you can see some detail. But yeah.
Yes. Hold on, I gotta look up old Baldur's.
But showcases, generally speaking, it's funny. People say vote with your wallet, and the secondary market clearly is making it abundantly clear that showcases are not valuable.
Just not yet. Look at Alora, Merry Thief.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The other thing that I find, okay. It's so
jank.
It's janky. It is. It's really janky.
It really is. And it's got like the signature of the artist right there. Like featured heavily, being like, I'm proud of this.
And I trust that artist is very talented, but I suspect this was a quick sketch.
And there's nothing literally wrong with that drawing, and it's a very stylized illustration that definitely belongs in a context, but it doesn't feel like it belongs in this one. It just is a jarring presence. So anyway, So again, voting with the wallet, again, like you said, it's just the public doesn't necessarily want these. And I felt most strongly about that for Baldur's Gate alt arts, for which I got Gale Waterdeep Prodigy. I got like metric ton of them, and I was just and Volo Itinerant Scholar followed me around as a mythic that I opened in alt art, and I didn't want those at all. And now I've got these like I've got these crazy, ugly dinosaurs and insects following me, and it's just like, oh god, come on, stop.
Oh my goodness.
I think it would behoove Wizards to consider what its audience is enthusiastic about as far as these alt arts, and maybe do some consultations.
And that's not just for these kind of like old commons and uncommons, because at the end of the day, like commons and uncommons are we're talking about a difference between like 10 cents and 5 cents, or like a penny and 5 cents. Like that's arguable. At the end of the day, none of that is really worth a lot, regardless.
Well,
but
the decanter is a full factor of like that's a whole $1 off just for the art.
Yeah.
Like,
actually,
you can get bigger with the rares and mythics. Some of the artwork is worth much more.
It's actually
than
worse
other
than
artwork.
I'm on Scryfall right now, and it has like prices listed. The normal decanter of Endless Water, that the artwork is very just simple. It's just a magic card, and it shows kind of a faraway picture of.
It's got good use of light. It's got good use of dark and shadow. It's got good
it even
use
has a little
of
refraction,
color. Even there's very
Yeah.
little color overall. It's usually it's in mixtures of like black, gray, white, and some brown and some goldish a little bit. But it's really, really making use of all of that to create a mood and atmosphere.
And it's funny though, because like when I glance at it, it doesn't really pop to me. But when I stop and look at it, I can see those levels that you're talking about. So, okay. So yeah, no, okay. That is actually a pretty cool piece of art. And then the specialty version is this, which is not as cool as the other. This looks like a good very utilitarian diagram of an item. Like if I wanted to like give an adventurer a quest to go fetch a thing, this shows them very clearly what they're going after. So okay, neat,
exactly. It's a fish-shaped horn, a drinking horn. It's a fish-shaped drinking horn that just is spewing water.
Okay,
and it's in black and white as an illustration drawing.
Yeah. The normal one, according to the Scryfall listing, is selling for around $2.20, which it's a mana rock that gives no max hand size. I know people love that effect. As a reanimator player, I'm not one of them, but I get it, and I know it's a beloved thing. The showcase is selling for around 50 cents.
Yes. Okay, so it's worse than I thought. But
if you want this for your decks, and you don't care what it looks
about
like
the price or the color, you care about the price but not the art. Then
if you don't care about the art,
the alt.
Just if you do not have a preference and you just want it as a mana rock in your deck, there's an option for you. Yep.
But yeah, so back to limited. Sorry.
So yeah, that was a bit of a tangent, but it was a fun one. Thank you.
It's just a really cool one. I hope people appreciated it. But I'm sorry if you were all here for limited and nothing else.
I thought that was fun. So
to continue with the really powerful cards
the big old bombs.
You're just like, okay, well. So you have Sky Sovereign, which we got onto this topic from the alternate art, which I really dislike.
Yep.
And then you have Riptide Gear Hulk, which is the only Gear Hulk that is really at this level.
Interesting.
And
although actually,
it's because
looking
it puts
at some of them, that makes sense.
Up to one target non-land permanent, third from the top of opponent's library. So, and that's really good. It's a 2/5 double strike. It's just a good card. It's a very solid card. It has prowess and double strike. So, you get huge value for 5 mana. And yes, that is a little bit of a cost to go double blue, double white, but there you are.
Sure.
And one.
Yeah. But if you're in that, white blue ramp deck, you'll be fine. Yeah. You'll
be totally fine. Its played win rate is 69.8% over 10,000 games.
Nice.
So these are cards with 70% win rates, essentially. It's just, and there's 3 of them so far.
If there was a 1 card with that high of a win rate in a set,
that's Sunfall.
Warning bells would be going off and people would be frustrated.
Sunfall is that level.
Yeah.
Sunfall had a 70% win rate, and people hated it.
Oh, with good reason.
So
people in Standard still hate it too, for the record.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Mu Yanling Wind Rider gives your vehicles flying, and whenever a creature with flying deals damage to an opponent, you draw a card. That's just stupid. She also creates a vehicle to fly for you when she comes into play.
That is so interesting that she's a limited bomb.
She is a limited bomb. She's not worth anything in paper, but she's a limited unbeatable card, basically.
Because in Constructed, I was trying to figure out a way to build her as a commander that would be interesting, and it's just she's just too expensive for what you get. The 3/2 vehicle is kind of worthless in that context.
Yep.
It's just.
I mean, and vehicles are a price. Like I said, if you're prioritizing vehicles just because you're playing Mu, if you don't draw Mu, your vehicles are so much less valuable.
Oh, for sure.
So now there are a couple other cards that are listed as S tier, but the win rate isn't quite as high as we're talking about here. There's Lumbering World Wagon and Agonosaur Rex, but those have played win rates of 63.2% and 66.2%, which again is still stupid. Like it's still bad.
Any
right?
other set, those are the.
It's still bad.
Those are the big problems we're talking about. Yeah.
So 66.2% is still a crazy card. Like that's a ridiculous win rate for World Wagon. But I haven't gotten to even so in the A+ tier, there's Loot, which has a 70.5% win rate. Because his farts are apparently alternately productive, revelatory, and caustic. The first one adds 3 mana, the second one draws 3 cards, and the third one deals 3 damage to any target. It has double strike, vigilance, haste, 2/4. It can attack for 4 at the same time as it can then exhaust to add 3 mana or exhaust to draw 3 cards because you need an Ancestral Recall on a stick.
Yeah. I mean, we have Ancestral Recall, Lightning Bolt, and Black Lotus available here. Yeah. Like, okay, I know the green isn't quite Black Lotus, but it's not quite Dark Ritual either. It's,
But it's gross. So
it is gross.
And that has a 70.5% win rate when played. Of course, it's been played in fewer games overall just because this requires the third color.
Sure.
But 13,000 games for that to get that number. So the stat is not irrelevant. But we're still at that 70%. March of the World Ooze is at 72% played win rate.
Okay. Yep.
And that's for 15,000 games. Again, fewer, but still, it's up there. I've been beaten by both of those cards multiple times. Most of these cards multiple times, obviously. But once you have this is already 3 or 4 cards at essentially a 70% win rate. And we've got more. We've got 68% for Pyrewood Gearhulk, 68% for Pathbreaker Ibex. Let's see. We even have a 60. What is it? Where is it? Here we go. We have low data for the Aether Spark, but that's a 65%. There's a bunch of 66, 67s that I'm not quoting for you, but those are approaching 70% win rate cards. And there's a lot of them. There are a lot of them. And even some of the cards that are at the 61, 62 are crazy cards. Now, that said, having a ton of 60-something% win rate cards also indicates to you that there's a discrepancy in power level amongst the rares and mythics. Just like with some of the previous sets, Sunfall was so much better than other things you could get in that set. In OTJ, you could get Wilds. Yeah, was it OTJ? You could get the ley lines. No, it was Duskmourn. Duskmourn, you could get the ley lines, and someone else could get Overlord of the Mistmoors.
Right.
So the difference here is that in Cube, for example, almost every card is going to be super powerful. And that mitigates the feel bad, the experience. Now, there's going to be a few outliers that they have to get rid of, like Krenko. No, not Krenko. Grenko. Is that what it was? What was his name?
Grenzo?
Grenzo, no. Thank you. Grenzo, the one that did the heist. That just had an unbelievable win rate. It was even more powerful than it should have been in Cube. It was so powerful they had to cut it, essentially.
Yeah, Grenzo Crooked Jailer.
Grenzo Crooked Jailer, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Krenko's the goblin. Oh, sorry.
Right.
That makes more goblins.
Grenzo's a goblin too, but Krenko's
Grenzo is also a goblin rogue that is a 6/4 that when it enters in the beginning of your upkeep, heist target opponent's library, and you could cast those for free, essentially.
Yeah.
So it
And
was
they nerfed it and then ended up still having to remove it from the cube.
They nerfed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they removed it from the cube. They hadn't nerfed it before they removed it from the cube.
Okay.
But unnerfed, even amongst cube cards, which are the stupidest cards that have been ever printed, essentially, the most value for your buck and crazy cards that have ever been printed, this had to say goodbye. But that's the problem, is in the limited set, you are getting cards that have, no win rate, right?
Right.
Versus these cards that have a 70% win rate. You're getting C+ cards, right? Or even C level rares. And somebody else is getting these 70% win rates.
Right.
So it's just brutal.
Yeah.
To be playing against this, especially on a tier and a ladder, right? Where, the more you win, the more likely you are to face these cards, but you might just face them in the beginning and just lose as well. So have no chance to play. But there are literally in the S tier, just to tell you, of the win rates that we're talking about that are all above 60, there are 6 cards in the S tier, 4 cards in the A+ tier, 3 cards in the A tier, and 8 cards in the A- tier. And most of those have above a 60% win rate. I don't think any of them have below a 60% win rate. Yeah, none of them do. None of them do. All of them are above 60. Even amongst the B+ tier, there are 63.4% win rates in the form of the Bright Glass Gear Hulk, in the form of 62.9 in the form of Far Fortune, and 62.6 in the form of Curse Cloth Wrappings. So it's not as though there aren't 60% win rate cards in these. There's Achik in this thing, which is 63.4%. Achik is a game-winning bomb. It is freaking nuts.
I have a standard deck built around Achik. It rules.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
So this is so many cards at that level, but not all. But not all. And there's so many cards that are way below that level that when you get them, it's such a feel bad because you're going to be facing people who have multiple of these high win rate cards.
Yeah.
And again, multiple means you're more likely to draw them. And play boosters means there's more likely to be more of them in the deck. So
yeah.
This is
folks out there opening river churn monuments and mascots. Sorry. What are you going to do?
Yes, exactly. Yep. And so when I say you have to outlast the early game and then you have to outlast these, then you have to somehow find a way around these bombs. Because I have outlasted the early game only to die to March of the World Ooze, because they just start, and I'm almost there, but then they March of the World Ooze, and the 3 creatures that were nothing are now all 6/6s.
Yep.
And I can't get through.
That's silly.
I've navigated for the win. They top deck this card, slam it down, we're done. I can't get there.
Yep.
And there's very little enchantment removal in this. So, there are a bunch of enchantments that do cause problems. So that's an exacerbating factor. Now, so there are ways to mitigate these things. Definitely watch drafters who are very talented, who seem to understand the set very well. You can definitely find many of them recommended on my About Me page. And if you ever come on stream, just ask me. I will tell you who they are. You can go watch them. Many of them play at the same time as I do, so I highly recommend shifting a little bit. Just to see, other forms of play and people who seem to have a better grasp of it, or at least do, different things. And so it's an interesting one. You have to outlast the early game, then you have to figure out a way around the bombs. And so having your own bombs is a huge thing. The ones where I do have bombs, I have won lots.
I believe you. Yeah.
I actually did have the Simic God once and did trophy. Go figure.
That tracks. Yeah.
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 but I also got, fairly lucky with lands at that point.
Sure.
So because you also need to not stumble, remember, and you need to not flood.
Yeah. So
there's
it sounds like being successful in this format is actually fairly simple. You draft bombs, then always go first. And never make a single mistake.
That's normally the rules. That's normally the rules for
for most limited sets, right?
Except it used to be curve out.
Yep.
Play first. So play first, curve out, don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
But now it's, even if you curve out, like I said, there's some stuff that just stops you on that curve.
Sure.
And so curving out is still important, but then the bombs have you.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're on the play sometimes and you curve out, the bombs may still have you because they just stop you in your tracks. But again, you got to stop. So for this set, it's really key to make sure that you can stop early aggression, because that's going to make it so you can't come back with that max speed unless you have one of these major bombs. And then you also need to make sure that if you can, you develop some sort of removal for those bombs, prioritizing, if you're in white, the exile effect. And just, still have fun with it, obviously, but I've gotten unlucky enough to some degree, or I don't understand the format well enough yet that I am not having a good time as far as winning goes.
I'm sorry.
There have been a few games, like I said, part of that factors in is that I know I've lost on turn 4, for example. I haven't literally been gone down to 0, but they have like 3 creatures on the board with max speed. And they're getting value out of one of their creatures for max speed. And at that point, just coming back is so hard. Like, I've been able to get them down to almost nothing, but then I'll have that there's that last thing that that the card advantage that they've gotten has given them, or whatever advantage from max speed that they've gotten has given them. So even if it's something as simple as extra ramp, right?
Right.
They're just playing cards on a turn earlier than I can, even because I'm going second, like even more than that. At 2 turns now, I'm behind. So, so that's the main thing, is make sure you can take care of early stuff, either with blockers of your own. Oh, that was the other thing. A lot of the bombs mean they have to be blocked. Like, they're so strong that they have to be blocked. Now this card isn't even listed amongst like the top of the top. But the Guardian Sunmare is a 5/5 with Ward 2 for 5 that whenever it attacks while saddled, and it saddles for 4, search your library for a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Oh God, that's hideous. Yes, that's another one of the arts that I'm just like, oh, make it go away.
For the video feed, I had to pull up the showcase for this one.
I opened that.
It's ridiculous.
So this is a card where like you have to block it. If you're not winning like the next turn, you have to block it. You can't let them keep getting that kind of value. And I actually got blown out the other day because I triple blocked because my opponent was representing a removal spell, and I needed to put 2 blockers on. Any 2 blockers would have been lethal to this, but they actually had the Death Touch Indestructible trick.
Oh no.
They had the Death Touch Indestructible trick, and that just blew me out. It destroyed it. It was maximum overdrive, and it killed 3 creatures, and I had no win after that. No way to win. So the fact that these bombs are so strong mean that you do have to try to kill them when you can. If you're not already winning around them, they'll just generate so much advantage. But the fact of tricks like Indestructible being in the format, there are two different ones that give Indestructible, the Defend the Rider and Maximum Overdrive. The fact that those are in the format is really painful because you can't. Like, right. You can play around removal, but you can't necessarily play around that card. So, and I maintain that I did have to block there, that I did not have an out to be able to get there, because I couldn't kill them on the swing back, and they got a Death Toucher into play that makes swinging really bad. So I had to try to stop it from getting value the next turn, and there you are.
Yikes.
Lost
Yeah.
3 creatures, 2 4/4s and a 2/2 or something like that. And for the price
Yeah, that
of
sounds
1
brutal.
2-drop, 1 2 mana kill spell.
Yeah, it's a 2-mana
trick.
Oof, my goodness.
So yeah. So there's so much you have to prepare for this. So again, it's not a beginner friendly set in terms of winning, right? Unless you get one of these bomb rares, sure. But even then, like, there's a lot of the decks will be built so poorly that even the bomb land, like in terms of the number of vehicles versus creatures, etc., in terms of overvaluing certain types of cards as opposed to others. It's just it's speedier than it seems from the thing, because again, if they've attacked, they've got max speed, they've got those creatures on the board. Even if you have the 2, you're not coming back from the advantage they're gaining. And yes, you're not dead that turn, but you will be. You should play it out, try and get there. But like every time that I've been like, oh, I have a shot, even though I'm behind, no, I didn't.
Yeah, it stinks.
There's always something that comes down and does this something. But yeah, so keep playing it out, keep having fun. I think the mechanics amongst the commons and uncommons are all really interesting. I think that a lot of the uncommons, remember that Thundering Broodwagon that has a 67% win rate?
That's silly. Yep.
That's just an uncommon. If the uncommons were all, if the rares and mythics were all gone, we would still have amazing games with our commons and uncommons. If we cut all the rares and mythics these days, I think we would have an amazing limited format. I think there would be so much good incremental advantage and cool stuff going on. Yes, you'd have some cards like the Broodwagon with a 67% win rate played, but in-hand win rate is only 60%, I guess.
But yeah, if this is the best bomb that we have, that sounds okay.
In commons and uncommons, yeah.
Yeah.
And Spike Shell Harrier is the next best uncommon with a 60.9% win rate. Autark Mammoth has a 63.4% win rate game played. Again, in opening hand, these go down just because they're the bigger cards, the 6-drops,
Sure.
and the 5-drops. But if you get to play them, they're winning. So you have to keep in mind, get through the early game, make sure you have removal for the late game bombs. Try to make sure that if you're running vehicles, they're maximized. And just remember that everybody's overdrafting green right now. So just because a color is not as strong doesn't mean you won't get the best cards for it and give yourself a better shot than a mediocre deck that you're competing for its colors.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's generally a lot of
lots
wisdom.
Of stuff, but
no, it's great, and thank you for that. No,
you're so
I
welcome.
Think, that is a great.
If I have any more insights, we can do a follow-up at some point. I'm going to do some more research myself and watch a lot of other drafters. I've been really busy and haven't been able to do as much of that as I normally would, so I can give you more insight into what other people are doing with the set, hopefully. But power creep is real. We've got a 3-mana 5/4 that pumps other dinosaurs. So 3-mana 5/4 with upside. We've got a 5-mana 8/8 trample. So
sure.
Like the power creep is real. So just and that coupled with play boosters and the league and best of one is gonna mess with you. But do your best.
It is what it is. So good luck out there, everybody.
All right. I'm just happy it's a short set.
Yeah, right. No, we'll be on to the next soon. Very, very soon. Don't worry. Don't worry. We will.
And that was the last thing, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was the last thing. This is a theme set which started with like Murders at Call of Manor, where everybody's a detective, and then Outlaws, where everybody's a cowboy. This was the set that was still in production when they got the feedback for Murders at Call of Manor. And I think so. This is one of the last sort of like themed set where it's like magic cards doing cars, or magic cards doing detectives, or magic cards doing, because they got feedback that wasn't really what the public wanted, as far as I understand. But again, this set was still in the pipeline already when that was happening, so they couldn't make changes up until this. So this should be the last time where they're actually doing that. If that's not your thing, you should be excited. If you're going to be devastated. I'm so sorry, but just that's information for you.
Yeah, but don't worry. The Universes Beyond has got you. But
Yes.
Honestly, I kind of prefer the idea of just let it be a different property rather than like make it
Yes.
Magic characters, but like look like a different property.
Yes.
Yeah. So just call it what it is. You know.
I have that preference myself too. I understand people who don't. That's totally fine.
Absolutely.
But like that's just my perspective.
But
to each their own. There, I'm glad these sets are for you.
But at the same time, there's a lot of the discussion around kind of the tropification, and we have a lot of discussion around the Universes Beyond and all that jazz. I know there's been a ton of info about the Final Fantasy set, whether that's your thing or not. However, it is my thing, but more on that later. That's a different time. That's a different.
I was going to talk about that.
Episode.
It's going to be great.
We will do that. But for other folks out there, one thing that I think, rather than just complaining about whatever we don't like, let's look forward to Tarkir Dragonstorm. We are going back to Tarkir.
I'm so excited.
That is an in-universe set that isn't presumably not going to be super tropified, and we're going back to a world that we have seen before, that we visited, that has gone through a lot of weird changes, and who knows what it's going to look like when we get there. And I'm going to get to kick it with my buddy Sarkin, which I'm always excited about. So it's going to be a good time, and we're going to get
crazy dude.
Some big silly dragons.
Yay!
And there's gonna they did confirm there's gonna be
there's stuff to still love about Limited, of course. Always like it's just fun to try and get the advantage where you can. I am just sad about the power level of certain rares and mythics, but we get a little stampeding Scurryfoot. It's a mouse. And then it gets value late. Like, I love cards that get value early and late. That makes me so happy. So this is one of the best drops in green, right? Early drops in green is the 1 mana 1/1 that exhausts for 4 to put a +1 counter on itself and make a 3/3 green token elephant. So
I love that artwork.
There's so much cool stuff to love amongst the commons and uncommons.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, and Stampeding Scurryfoot, I love I saw this card a couple of times before I realized that the mouse is on a mammoth's tusk.
Yes.
It's such a clean design because like the mouse is clearly the focal point, but then if you look, like the background is the mouse's buddy. You know,
exactly.
That later. I love
and I wanted it to be a squirrel so I could put it in my squirrel deck. Because the green mouse, mice are all red.
Right? Red with a little bit of white. Yeah.
White. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, all the best ones are red, but yeah, there's...
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Amazing. I love it.
So, anyway, sorry to have kept everybody for so long. And sorry for the tangent in the middle, but thank you so much for sticking with us. There's all kinds of tangents.
This has been a delight. I know I had a good time. I hope you did at home.
I had an awesome time. Sorry for...
Oh, my goodness.
Also, sorry for any, sort of overall negativity. There is some frustration with the power creep and stuff. But, like, if that's something you love, again, please love it. That's always the way it goes.
I'm here for it. I want to make sure that on this show and pretty much anything that we do here, or anything that I'm a part of, I want to make sure that people are being genuine. And thank you for sharing your genuine feelings on this. That's huge. Yeah. Because I know that can be validating for a lot of folks. So,
and when we criticize this game, it's because we love it. It's because we want it to be the best it can be for us. And again, that is based on our own preferences.
It's all preference. Absolutely.
If we didn't care about this game, we wouldn't say anything. Like, we would just let it go and quietly fade away. It's that I care about this game and I love playing it in a particular form. That means that I want that form to, remain fresh and fun, as opposed to, getting more and more close to a different format. So
right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so hopefully you take this all as, with love for Magic.
Definitely. So yeah, with that, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. This was delightful.
Thanks to everybody for listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks
and we'll be back next week with a lot more information about Dragonstorm, and we'll no doubt chat about the Final Fantasy previews as well, because I know I have thoughts. I know other members of the team have thoughts.
Oh yeah.
But in the meantime,
how many people can we fit?
What do you mean? Oh, in the call? Ooh, that'll be
call.
We'll figure it out.
Maybe we can all do this. It'd be cool.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and maybe we need to get everybody who's going to be at MagicCon Chicago, because that's a thing that's happening this weekend. If you're listening to this right when it comes out, MagicCon Chicago is right around the corner. And by right around the corner, I mean the fact that I don't have a suitcase packed is like me being woefully underprepared at this point.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna be leaving Friday morning, which is in less
I'm
than
leaving
48
tomorrow
hours,
night.
So.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, right. And so anyway, so that's going to be happening. We are very excited. A lot of members of Team MagicJank are going to be there, including the two of us.
Come
so
say
come
hi.
find us. Yes, come say hi.
Come say hi. We love you. We want to play
Oh my
games
goodness,
with
yes.
you. We want to hang out and hear about your lives. That's the
Oh my goodness.
That's the main thing.
And
just
yes,
actually
we will
connect, not just through a screen.
Yes, let's actually use our voices in real time to have a conversation. It is great. So that's going to be this weekend, and I can't speak for anybody else. I'm a hugger. I respect your space. I will not insist a hug, but it's available if you choose to redeem it.
Yes.
For anybody out there. And we also are going to have custom treasure tokens. Showing off the members of the team who are going to be in Chicago. So come find one of us, and we can hook you up with one of these fancy schmancy treasure tokens, which I think is downright delightful. It's a bunch of us raiding a dragon's horde, which is just fun.
And the dragon's absolutely thrilled about it. Don't worry.
Yeah, dragon's having a great time. It's so happy to have friends.
Dragon is very philanthropic.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, all these streamers, they could use it. They need it more than I do. Like you kids have fun. Anyway, so yes, come find those. We have various meet and greets. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. So in the meantime,
Can't wait.
I know I'm gonna go pack a bag and get some rest. And yeah, Headology, thank you.
Me too.
You're a freaking delight. All right.
You're awesome.
Later, everybody.
Awesome. That's my new
Awesome.
word. You're awesome.